Incitec Pivot Limited is a global company headquartered in Melbourne, Australia. Our core competency is in manufacture of nitrogen, and for that we use it in two major applications, which is fertilisers and explosives. As a result of that, our number one priority at all times is zero harm to all our people. And secondarily, our priority is manufacturing reliability. To be an Australian manufacturer, you have to be world class, there is no choice about it. And our third major strategy is what is called business excellence, or BEX. And BEX is all about getting productivity in everything that we do every day, and that supports our manufacturing reliability and zero harm strategies. And BEX is all about taking loss and waste out of every single process so that we can get the flow-on financial and business system maturity benefits. So the BEX productivity initiative requires that leaders lead differently, and that different leadership is based on having different competencies, such as being able to coach, being able to lead teams to problem solve for themselves rather than being an autocratic style of I'm the expert and I know best. It requires our leaders to think systemically, because they need to be able to think down a process, and they need to be able to think across the organisation to understand where best practices are that they could bring. They also needed to be authentic with their teams, to be able to hand over and empower others in their part of the organisation, so that actually a lot of the productivity improvement come from the teams themselves rather than from the leaders. And so what was enormously appealing for us about the Leadership Circle is that a number of the dimensions on the creative side actually relate directly to the competencies that we're trying to build in our leaders. So rather than doing a 360 tool where we had to do all sorts of complicated interpretation to get from what are we assessing and testing to what are the things that people need to do, we didn't have that with the Leadership Circle. We were able to get that straight through. I can see how I'm on the coaching dimension. Now I need to see if that's a strength for me or where I might need to make some adjustments. The other thing that was enormously appealing for us is the fact it's based on the stages of adult mental development, as opposed to being a motivation and behaviour-based tool. And we felt for the sort of activity that BEX is, which actually requires people to change their thinking and change their mindset, then this was actually the right sort of tool. The benefit for us in using the Leadership Circle is that it's a global tool that can be used across a global business. Around about 50% of our business is in North America. And what was enormously appealing is that we could get a cohort of people across geographically dispersed organisation to do the same 360 and actually be able to understand and utilise the results. So we can get that cross-business, cross-geography benefit from the 360. My experience in the past is many 360s have had resonance in one particular location and not another, whereas this one can work across a truly global cohort. The other thing that's been possible is that the feedback that people have received has resonated with them quite a lot, and they've wanted to stay on the journey. So instead of this being I got that 360 feedback and it was a one-hit wonder, we're actually getting teams who are asking for more, who are asking to continue their journey. What impressed me the most about the consequences and the way that people have really got value out of doing the Leadership Circle, and both the immediate feedback they got and then the work that was done on the team, was when one of my engineering colleagues, who honestly was probably one of the most conservative, traditional engineers that you'd probably ever come across, who could fix any problem in the manufacturing process, who could single-handedly run the plant, stood up in front of the board of directors of the company, and said doing the Leadership Circle was the best thing that had happened to him for years, because it gave him some critical feedback and gave him some line of sight into what was going on for him that led him to be in a certain way, and that he saw that he needed for it to change in order for us to meet these, to really implement BEX and really get the value and benefit commercially out of BEX that we're looking for. For him to say that was just fantastic. While we don't directly try and say, well, the ROI on this was XYZ percentage, we can see it flowing through in the numbers. If we can get our leaders to coach a team so that they go out then take some loss and waste out of their processes, and through that coaching or through that problem solving that's been achieved when it hadn't been previously, or the rate of that improves, that's our ROI, and that's what we're looking for. What we've noticed about getting a cohort of leaders in the company to actually undertake the same sort of assessment, if you will, for the same purpose, which is around building our BECS leadership, is that we started to build a cadre of people who are able to do reflective leadership as well as competency-based leadership. And what that means is that then when we get into certain situations, such as if there's a conflict or we're trying to think systemically rather than in a silo, then there's a common ground that our leaders can get together on to enable to work through the situation that they may have at hand. And that's something that we didn't have previously in the same way as we do have now that the teams have done the leadership circle. If somebody said to me, what would be a few hints and tips for using the leadership circle? I would say, just make sure that people are aware that they are going to get some tough love feedback and therefore, you know, that there is a supportive process and there needs to be a supportive process in order to really take that through. And it's not a one-off thing that you've got to do the work following up afterwards, be that immediately, be that in 6 months, be it in 12 months' time, to make sure that you get the full value out of the feedback that's received. But as long as you put in place that supportive process around it, then you will get a lot of value from the tool.